Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us again here on Aspiration Inspiration with me, Jason George. As always, we aspire to inspire before we expire. Now, it is Heritage Day, and because Heritage Day, we usually have a special edition. And today, our guest is one of the most talented singer-songwriters to come out of one of our hometowns on the Cape Flats, Jimmy Nevis. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
What's up, man? It's so good to be here.
Yeah, man, Jimmy, it is Heritage Day, and we want to get into a bit about your story. But before then, could you share with us maybe a bit about your heritage? What does heritage mean to you, and how have you embraced your heritage?
Wow. Look, I mean, for me, every year I get asked this question, and every year I come up with different answers.
Yeah.
And I mean, it ranges from like something as serious as just growing up in Athlone, the 7764, close to my heart, going to church there, all of my friends that I grew up with there. And then it also goes all the way to like Kus sisters and, food. And I always tell people that for me, Athlone was about like three things, which is food, family, and faith, and I think that kind of sums up my culture. And they're all kind of interlinked with one another. So for me, heritage or my heritage is really about just community. And when I think about how we may not have had the most, but we were always there for each other. And that still very much is today the essence of Athlone and so many other places that are like that as well, like Mitchell's Plain, so many of the other neighboring spots.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, so you are, being from Athlone, and you're also talking about, you did not always have, and now you are a very successful musician. And I just wanted to ask, how did you discover your passion for music? And did you always know that you were going to make it this big in the industry?
Look, I mean, I came from a very fortunate family in the sense that my parents were very supportive of me wanting to be a musician or a singer, especially growing up. When you grow up in the church, I think there's this automatic thing that like, okay, what you do now, you do in the church, and it was a good place to also practice my talents. I think, my dad was the pastor, and he would just start singing songs. And I was playing the piano, right? So I would just have to learn it on the spot and try and figure it out. And I used to come home on Sundays and like cry and be so upset because I was so embarrassed, and I would speak to my dad and be like, I'm so embarrassed. You can't just like start songs that I don't know, But when I think about it, it was probably one of the best training grounds for me in terms of really finding myself. And I think as I got older, I sang at various churches around the Cape Town area, and and as I got more and more into it, I mean, in high school, I started really writing my own music and taking things more personally. Yeah. And by the time that I was at the end of high school, I was already producing. I was like sneaking my songs at the end of assembly or something at school, and I arranged from the sound guy to play one of my songs at the end, just subliminally,
Yeah.
And I think deep down, if I'm being really honest, I actually kind of did know that I could make it. I felt like there was something, and I mean this in the most humblest of ways. Like I honestly felt like I had put in so much time. Like there was so many nights my friends were out and I was just at home making music. And I had put so much time and energy into it during high school. And by the time I was in varsity, I was already performing at tribute shows as Prince with a wig on and a ruffled shirt and performing for all the beautiful gamblers at Grand West. And so I'd given so much to this already that for me it wasn't a matter of if I would make it, it was just a matter of when. And I didn't think it would happen as soon as it did, but I'm really grateful to God for the journey and just to kind of see how it all played out.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think one of the first songs that came out was, from hot boxing to shoes, and then now, and it seems like your music is now more, and talking about, Heritage Day and that type of vibe. One of your most recent songs, it's called 7764, and that is from, Athlone. What was, and I think you've touched on it a little bit, what was life like for you growing up, in Athlone, and why did you feel like it was important to you to make a song about the community?
There's so many, there's so much that we live with as, I think, as people of color. Like there's so many extra thinking that we have to take on. And I think at that time, I was in the middle of my varsity career, UCT, and I was doing the whole Jimmy Nevis thing. And I think for me, there was always this thing about, don't tell people where you're from, because they're going to put you in a box. They're going to start coming with their stereotypes. And for me, I think a lot of the time there was this agenda to like get out of the hood, whether that be physically or even just mentally, like get out, push things bigger, do this, whatever. And I think I wouldn't say I was brainwashed in that, but I think definitely, I went to schools in Pinelands, and I mean, it was very clear for me sometimes I think there I felt really, really colored, but when I came home, I felt really white in a sense, and I use that more from a cultural sense. And I think just that type of confusion leading up to the middle of my varsity career, where I had to do a research assignment, and I looked at, mine was based in the Cape Flats area. And I honestly just like fell in love with my area, and I got new perspective, and I began to see it for what it really is, and kind of just took things on from a more objective point of view, and not just from somebody who was pushing, trying to get out or whatever. But this came from a space of like, wow, there was so much I was missing out on. I didn't see it, I couldn't get it. And I think for a lot of people, it wasn't just me, it was something, we weren't in a space where we were able to fully claim our heritage openly without it being deemed unprofessional or without it being deemed, I always felt like people didn't understand where I was from, even though I was going home there every single day, So I think it was an interesting time when I wrote 7764, because it was a song, yes, that was there to uplift my community, but it was also a song of education to everybody who didn't know where I was from, and kind of be like, yo, we're not running from this anymore. Like, this is it, and it's beautiful, and it's amazing, and it's misunderstood. Come and see what this is all about. And I mean, I look at artists like Youngster and them today, who are, we are so far in that type of conversation where people are just loud and proud about where they're from, and it's beautiful too, And it's just that, if I'm being really honest with you, I don't think I've been this honest about that song, but that was really what it was like at that time.
And I think that's important. It's a very important message for us to get out there, because a lot of the times when you have to introduce yourself, and it's like, oh yeah, Jason, where you from? I'm from Mitchell's Plain, and then you're like, there's like that awkward pause, and then you sort of feel like you now need to justify, but you're from the quiet side, and you're from the side.
Exactly. It's like, I'm not from that road, but I'm from like, I'm 2 roads down that road. And it's so crazy, because like we laugh about it now, but like, I mean, this is the experience for so many people, and it's, I mean, now we live in a time, things were so different just 10 years ago, but now we are able to have more conversations. We are having more pioneers and artists and people who are taking the forefront in like yourself, in having these type of dialogues where people can feel safe to share that I am from this part of Mitchell's Plain or Lavendale or whatever, and this is my reality, So, and it's something that I'm still learning about it, I think there's just so much happening in the world right now, and I'm forever a student, even about my own heritage, it's something that I'm continuously having to interact with.
And I agree with you completely. It's stuff that you learn and you pick up along the way, and you realize, oh, actually, that's also part of our, and embracing it, and as you say in that song, also being proud of your roots. You don't have to shy away from it.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is like when I wrote that, it was very personal, and I didn't even think about it that much. It was like something that I wanted to do. And to this day, I mean, that song has taken me to places my wildest dreams could never have imagined, you know, and just getting feedback from so many different types of people, so many age groups, people who really felt like, you know, there's something really special in knowing that I was able to, um, that we could just be represented in some way or form. I've sang that song overseas to people there, and it's such a fulfilling feeling knowing that I'm singing about where I'm from, and I'm like, you know, in the Middle East right now. So it's pretty cool. And I, at the end of the day, it's, you know, the truth will set you free. So dramatic, but honestly, you know, there's so much truth that needs to be uncovered still in our heritage and things. And you know, wow, I haven't had such a deep conversation about this song in a while. So.
Yeah, no. But thanks for sharing also. And you're right in saying the truth will set you free, you know. I don't think,
Yeah,
because when you have those conversations with people, I think they start respecting you more when you own it, you know, instead of trying to shy away from yeah, no, you want to justify, no, I'm from the quiet side, and you know it's not that rough there, whereas you're like, you know, I am from this area, but I'm having this conversation with you right now. You know, you may be in a prominent position, but we are talking about where we're from. I'm proud of where I'm from, and I don't have to hide it, you know. Especially when you find
sure.
corporate spaces and, you know, with big personalities, and then it becomes sort of awkward. But it's good to own it.
You know, even you know, I think in the earlier years of my career, like going to certain events and, you know, feeling like, okay, cool, like I need to really step it up here, or
Mm.
like, you know, I need to, you know, we all striving towards this top billing lifestyle. So let's
Yeah.
start thinking like, you know, now's the time to think like that. And actually it really wasn't, you know, it wasn't. It was like, no, let's not get dragged into all these other worlds now. Let's
Yeah.
like continue with our path. And I
Yeah.
think like I said, I'm still learning, and
Mm.
I think it's great to see this much representation out there at the moment.
No, definitely. It must become ubiquitous. You know, it must become well known that, you know,
Yeah,
people can do big things and great things, even though they're from the Cape Flats. You know, it shouldn't be a
100%.
surprise for people.
Yeah,
But thank you so much for sharing that. And back to your career. You know, you are an established artist right now, and alluded to the fact that you've also, you know, traveled internationally, which you obviously have. What does it take for someone who's listening and is also pursuing a career in music? What does it take to make it or to be successful, you know, or some sort of recipe of success in the music industry? What does it take for that person?
um, sure. I would say hours. You know, you got to put in the hours, um, and you know, great things. I think sometimes great things, some of the best things in life are the most personal. You know, like and it's something that other people can't give to you. It's something you have to really put the time and the effort behind. And um, I think when I just think of my own journey, like some of my leveling up
Mm.
in whether mentally or just in as an artist or whatever it is, those have come from me spending time with myself and my craft and really like sitting throughout the night,
Yeah.
experimenting, trying out new things, figuring things out, running towards my fears, running towards the conversation and not away from it. So I think, you know, it's about time. You know, use your time wisely. Make sure you're putting it and investing that into your craft, because time is one of the greatest currencies that we have. You know, and it's something that it's so easy to take it for granted. But I would encourage, you know, a lot of there's this like almost uh, you know, people think that creatives lack discipline. You know,
Mm.
that's usually like a
Mm.
stereotype that comes along with creatives. But I think that there's a lot that we don't know about the creative industry. There's a lot, you know, I was just growing up, you know, you tell people that you want to be a musician, everyone's like, whoa. What do you mean? You know, that's not sustainable. You know,
Yeah.
you tell them to be a photographer. What is that like a secondary
Yeah.
thing? Like, what's your major? You know? So I think that there's so much that we have to learn in that field as well. But I would encourage people to put the hours behind you, and yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very important to back yourself in something like that, you know. I always ask, if I speak to an artist, it's like, how did you break it to your parents? You know, how did you break it to your parents? You want to pursue a career in music, you know, instead of the usual lawyer, doctor, accounting. And let me maybe ask you, you know, what was that like for you, that experience?
Look, my parents were never not supportive, but they definitely, they came with their concerns at one point or another. Especially because I was kind of toying between journalism and then architecture and then music. And even I didn't want to be a musician. Like even I was like, I don't want to be a musician. Like, you know, but like deep down I knew, like I just knew. And I even went for like a career test because I was so confused actually in my final year. And everything pointed towards performing arts. And I was like, nope, there's something wrong with this test. You know, because I think deep down I also knew that this would come with a lot. It would come with a lot of hard work. It was definitely a harder route in my mind and a harder adjustment. Yeah. And I then applied for music after then convincing my family and whatnot. I applied for music at UCT. I didn't get in for music, but I got in for my second choice, which was a BA degree at the time. And so then I was like, you know, okay, cool. I'm going to continue doing music on the side, and then I will just do this degree. And I ended up actually finishing my degree. I have a Bachelor of Social Sciences with majors in sociology. And yeah, you know, it's crazy how they've just interlinked with my music career over the years. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, telling my parents was definitely a process. And I think even just, even after that, you know, there's everyone has something to say until it actually happens to you, you know, and then they're like, wow, this is amazing, you know.
Yeah, I always knew you were going to make it.
Exactly, you know. But yeah, you know, but I definitely paid my dues as well. Like I said, I put a lot of hours in, and I think I was also very ambitious. I applied for many programs when I was in high school. I even applied for one at NYU, which was like a weird actual metaphorical journey for me, because I don't think the reality check of me going there was kind of, I could never afford to go there and study, but I think it held like some beacon of light for me in some way. So it just kind of kept the dream alive.
Yeah.
And when I ended up obviously not being able to continue my submissions for the programs on that side, it definitely opened my mind up. And so that's also another thing, you know, encouraging young people to just like, you know, kind of like branch your ideas as far as possible, you know. It's not always about landing certain things, but just opening yourself up to new ideas and concepts and figuring out how things work, you know. During that process, I learned a lot about the SATs. I learned a lot about what it takes to study abroad. And that was information that will come in handy for me later on in life, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think we often don't have the patience to kind of go through the process, you know, and see, because to kind of have a clear picture in our mind already of how things are going to work out. And we're not always in control of that, you know. So it's about taking that leap of faith to just branch out and see where it leads you. But it takes a lot of, I think you need to be brave to do that.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's also about understanding that like the weight of rejection. Like it's not really rejection, you know. I mean, I could say something cliched, like it's a stepping stone towards your next big thing. But you know, honestly, it's that was also a time where I really got comfortable in rejection. You know, I was applying to a lot of things that wasn't happening for me. I auditioned for many roles that I never got. You know, there were so many musicals and stuff happening around the city. so many people that I would end up working with now as Jimmy Nevis, who, when I was auditioning as Matthew LaRue, the chubby kid who couldn't dance but could sing really well, you know, that was like my thing. So like I was trying to, you know, and but at the end of the day, like my destiny was carved out for me already.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah. You just have to roll with it, you know, and see, you know, where it leads. But you need to put in the work, you know, as you
and put yourself out there for sure.
And Jimmy, how do you, I mean, you've made it so big. How do you stay grounded? You know, what keeps you, you know, humble? How do you stay grounded?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's like all 12 servants that I have in my home, and you know, I don't know. Honestly, you know, I think if you are committed to your craft enough, that will keep you humble, you know, because for me, my journey with my music, which is like, it's what I live and breathe. It's something that is very, it's at the center of my life. You know, that in itself has taught me so many lessons about, you know, trying to there's things that I thought I could achieve, and there was things that, you know, never happened, and things that I had to come to terms with, are like, oh, okay, cool, this isn't happening for me right now, but like I'm gonna get back to the drawing board, and I'm gonna like put in more focus and more time and more energy. And you know, outside of that, I think it's also the people that you surround yourself with, you know. I'm not somebody who really gives into, I think there's a lot of, you know, everyone has a squad and stuff. And I have my squad. They're just, you know, they're nobody in the industry. My squad is they're all my homies who live around the block, you know. But I think that there's, you know, they keep me grounded in the sense that we really support one another, and we can, our relationships and our friendships are based on the purest of things. It's not related to the industry, and I think in that sense, it's allowed us to just be real with one another all the time, keep it 100. And they're also people that I can just bounce ideas off of. People who are in my corner. And I think we underestimate actually the people that we hang out with, you know. Yeah, it's very, very, very important. I think you actually said something about this in the video that you sent me. But it is actually vital, because they, you know, they said that you become who you hang out with. And so it's important where you invest your energy, the type of energy that you take in.
I agree with you 100%, because I mean, part of, you know, where we're from, you can get caught up in the wrong crowds, and there are people that can, you know, hamper your goals and your destiny, you know, where you are supposed to. You could have ended up somewhere else, and just because the people that you surrounded yourself with, you ended up elsewhere. And I think it's very important, as you say, to surround yourself with people that, you know, that support your vision and support your goals, and, you know, they won't necessarily do something to deter you from achieving that, but rather help you in getting there.
Yes. I also think that there's like, people sometimes think that being humble is being quiet and holding your head down and stuff, but that's not always the case. It's like, I think it takes a lot of confidence to be humble. You know, you gotta have like self-assurance, not looking for external validation. There's a different type of demeanor that you carry when you really understand what it means to be humble, because it's not for anybody else. It's for yourself, you know? So, you know, they all kind of lead into one another. And like I said, I'm forever a student. I'm always learning. But yeah, other than that, my 12 servants and my chauffeur, they keep me humble. Yeah.
That's so incredible. So maybe you can introduce us to them in another interview.
So, I got you. I'll get them to they can create a spread and everything and whatnot.
Jimmy, talk to us about your motto in life. You know, what gets Jimmy through the tough times? What gets you through the tough times in life? What do you hold on to?
Um, let's see. Uh, I think uh, I like to do a lot of, I haven't done it in a while, but meditation is important for me. Uh, I think just quiet time, getting time to just be alone with my thoughts in a non-judgmental space. There are some things that I've gotten to know about myself.
Mm.
I think that that also lends itself to intuition, becoming intuitive with
Mm.
yourself, understanding how your brain works and really putting in the time and effort to understand that, okay, cool, this is not my strength in life. I need to figure out a better way to handle this.
Yeah.
I think, just keeping a healthy mind, going to gym, eating right, all of those things, they kind of keep me balanced. Um, but when it comes down to, I think what really gets me going is just it's passion. And again, in the same way, like I said, understanding your brain and
Yeah.
what needs to fuel your brain. I've also taken the time to understand what fuels my passion,
Yes.
and making sure that that fire stays lit.
Yeah.
And for me, it's time to experiment. I love experimentation, as an artist, in my music, in my craft. Um, I don't, I think for those who really know my music, you can actually hear that there's so many genres involved.
Mm.
And that's important because I am a very complex person and I love so many different styles of music. Um, and then, yeah, just also I think the passion of um, just, I think the stage for me has always been a great destination
Yeah.
for me. Like I love performing on stage, and there are so many other stages around the world that I have yet to perform on.
Mm.
So that's something that's a driving force when I think of like my music, and when there are days that I'm like really not feeling it, I'm like, remember you're doing this for that stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, and then I think last but not least, there's also an element of, I think, just like growth. I'm somebody who doesn't like to be stagnant.
Mm.
So for me, there's whether it be personally or as an artist or in whatever way or form, as long as I'm moving forward, I'm happy. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you so much. And just as a last question, thank you so much for your time. Um, what are your words of inspiration, and motivation to young people listening to this interview today?
Hmm. Um, sure. What's crazy is that as you get older, I think all the cliches that I've heard before in life become real. you know, they tell you those things like believe in yourself and don't be anybody else. Like, all of those
Yeah.
things are true, and they ring more true as you gain more perspective. Um, but I would, I would want to let others know or encourage them to have the confidence to back yourself up 100%, to
Mm.
give it your, put in excellence. Like, be that person that puts in so much into their projects. Whether you're an artist or a rapper or a singer or whatever field you're in, whether you're studying, you're a student, whether you're starting a new job, whether
Mm.
you are an entrepreneur, um, put in the effort, put in the hours,
Yeah.
um, and understand that there's a bigger picture. Small failures are going to come and go, but the bigger picture still stands. And that's something you got to keep your eyes on.
Yeah.
But yeah, put in the hours, and yeah, this is a very interesting time, coming and living through COVID and
Yeah.
uh, pandemic and lockdown, and so many people who have opportunities stripped away from them,
Mm.
um, have been forced to be resourceful. So yeah, I encourage people to just think outside the box, push yourselves uh, in new ways, and don't be scared to really back yourself.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You've definitely inspired that in me here today as well. And thank you so much for joining us today, Jimmy Nevis. Thank you so much for your time. And
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you. I haven't done an interview like this in a while. Because it's just, I've been so busy focusing on some new music that we've been working on. And a lot of the other interviews are very specific, but this has been such a good one. So thank you for this space. And cheers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for those of you who were listening. Thank you so much for joining us today. This Heritage Day, our special edition with Jimmy Nevis on Aspiration Inspiration, where as always we aspire to inspire before we expire.